Hello and welcome to the Goldenrod Podcast. I'm Ben. As always, I'm joined by fellow Pokemon enthusiast Conor to bring you some of the latest and greatest Pokemon news and a few laughs along the way. This week, we're discussing Pokemon Presents, breaking down what was revealed and our thoughts. That's it. The entire episode, Pokemon Presents, because there is so much that we are excited to discuss. But as always, there will be timestamps in the description below. Conor, how have you been?
I'm actually a little bit worked up today because I go away tomorrow. I am planning a trip with a couple of the boys from the YouTube side of things, and we're going to go watch Worlds. We can't go to Japan, unfortunately, as much as I would love to. So we're just going to have a big old watch party, and we realized earlier that it's effectively our Super Bowl. Like
I can understand that, yeah.
We're just not closeted nerds. You know, we're happy to dress up and watch something and get played and have a great time.
That'll be so much fun. It'll be an absolute blast, especially when you're watching the finals of the various things that are happening, because there's Unite, there's TCG, there's Pokemon Go, and Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah.
VGC, yeah.
Which, and I have to point this out. This came in Presents, okay? I think we've got spectator mode. I think there's fun.
Okay.
So, for ages, I've been complaining about the fact that when I was watching VGC, it was horrendous because you just watch one player's side of it.
Yep.
In this Presents, during the DLC footage, we saw at one point them in a different battle arena.
Yes.
In a spectator mode.
Oh,
so
okay.
My hope is that it's in the game, ready to go.
Could you imagine the big brain play if they revealed that in Japan? I don't know how they do that. I don't think it would happen, but could you imagine that? Just you turn up, it's like, oh yeah, you're not actually competing in the academy in Scarlet and Violet. You're going to be competing in the
I think it's in the Elite Four hallway.
Yeah,
right. The big hall room that you do the Elite Four in. That's at least what was on the image.
Right, okay. That would be exciting if they managed to pull that off. And like we said, like we've mentioned this in previous episodes, that the way competitive is shown in Scarlet and Violet is a step down from Sword and Shield. Just the stadium, the music, it just fits so well. And I do hope they do something to really bring to life just how great a Pokemon battle can be. And the stadium did that, so we need to start moving back to that. And I still maintain, I can't remember when we discussed this, but I remember talking about the Elite Four building that you are in Scarlet and Violet is disappointing because it is literally just a box room, big blue box, and there should be something on those things around the boxes that make up the bigger boxes. Should almost be like TV screens, and you get, you see them in a bit like, when you do the Terror Raid battles, and you can kind of see pixelated versions. Pixelated is the wrong word, but that kind of the effect. That's what it should be.
The light's refracted, and you're getting all the different.
That's it.
Versions of them. Yes, I know where you're at.
That's what that would be brilliant. But it sounds like it's going to be an absolute blast. I hope you enjoy it. Should we, speaking of Pokemon Presents, should we start talking about it?
Yes, let's do it.
Let's do it. So the first thing that I want to pick up on is when they started the presentation and they had all the plushies in the background. Did you notice them at all? Because there were very obvious clues as to what was coming up.
Oh, were they? No, I was oblivious to it.
I've got a picture of it. So Snorlax for Pokemon Sleep. Pikachu with a detective hat for Detective Pikachu. A Mewtwo stood alongside a Mew, so for the Mew and Mewtwo raid event. You had the three versions of Tasugiri for Pokemon Cafe Remix. You then had the three Scarlet and Violet starters, both in their first form evolutions and their last form evolutions, which could relate to any number of the projects that are in here as well. And then, of course, Miraidon and Koraidon, which again relates to it. So there were some clues before we even started as to what was coming up, which was quite clever of them. And now that I've spotted that, hopefully the next time there's a Pokemon Presents, We can be like, oh, okay, let's see if we can kind of guess what's coming up before it actually comes up.
But little did we know that you'd had a clue in your background this entire time.
Which was
your Horizons giraffe.
Horizons giraffe. That looks, honestly, when I we'll talk more about this later on in the series. When I saw that Raikou form, I can't something Bolt. I can't remember what it's called, and I saw it and I thought, that's a tall neck. That is literally a tall neck from the Horizon Zero Dawn franchise. It looks, especially when its clouds are wrapped around its neck and it gives that billowed appearance. And you know what? I absolutely love that design. But we'll talk more about that later on. We're jumping the gun ever so slightly. So, of course, the first piece of news was about the World Championships coming to Yokohama, August the 11th to August the 13th. So that is what Conor and his friends are going to be watching. So what I loved about this is the clothing that they're giving away for everyone that competes. Like the Pikachu with the little noodle bowl looks absolutely phenomenal. And the champion gear is beautiful. Absolutely.
The black and gold style is actually not something I'd usually go for, but it looks really tasteful in this.
It does, yeah. It's not, because usually when you see clothing like that, I always feel like they go too extreme on the gold and it looks cheap. Whereas this doesn't. It's like, oh, it's predominantly black with a little bit of beautiful gold inside of it. The other things as well, which they really are pushing the boat out on this, is the fact that there's a trainer cruise that people can just go on to relax and play and battle outside of the competition.
So I'm pretty sure they had something like that at UK Worlds as well. I know there was a couple of other YouTubers there who'd got a media pass effectively that were invited on this big boat tour. I don't know if that's the same thing, but I assume so.
It's absolutely beautiful. And then some of the artwork where they've obviously got people taking photos and trying to get them to interact with the area as well and get them out and about. It sounds like it's going to be an absolute spectacle. And obviously you went to Worlds in the UK last August, and it from everything that I've heard, it was really positive and great event.
Yeah, no, it was phenomenal. It was really well put together. I think because it's being held in Japan, they're gonna go hard with it.
That's what it feels like.
And once they started showing, they're like, oh, by the way, there's Pokemon just all around the city.
Yeah.
Go find them, go take pictures with them. It's like, okay, let's...
It feels very much like almost Pokemon coming home. Like it originated in Japan. That's where it started. And yeah, it's almost felt like it's become more and more, like, I want to say Americanized, but it's not Americanized. But you know, it's like
especially the competitive scene.
Yes.
You know, let's not forget that I spoke about this before as well, even down to silly little things. So when it comes to TCG competitively, all the Japanese players have been playing a different game to everybody else, basically, internationally, because they get sets earlier. So that means when it comes to World Championships, they have to relearn everything effectively and play a different game.
Wow.
They have to suddenly go back a format.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. But it like, I really do think this is going to be just an event, and I don't mean like it's obviously an event, but I really do think this will set a standard. Anyone going to this one and then going to one after might feel not let down, but it's not as good as the last one. But it's because like they pulled out all the stops to make it absolutely fantastic. Let's move on to the next piece of news that we're covering from Pokemon Presents, and that is a new anime, Pokemon Path to the Peak, which follows Ava, who discovers her natural talent of being able to play TCG and joins her school club. Now, that probably sounds quite boring when I say it like that, but the actual trailer, it seems really fun and lighthearted, right?
See, now you say it sounds really boring. The worst thing is, it was maybe last week before. I've been watching a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh content recently, and my brain went, Pokemon has a TCG, like a really fun TCG game, and as I said to you, when I came away from the European Championships, they'd managed to build such a story out of that final match in TCG. And I was like, you could easily turn this game into a show. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is still phenomenally popular. You know, there are other card game anime that haven't done so well, but you're already Pokemon. You already have the ability to do that. Why haven't we got a game or a show about somebody just playing the card game that already exists? And then I thought, well, Yu-Gi-Oh! Has holograms. What do? Do you have holograms? Do you have it be real Pokemon? How does this play out? And they seem to have just adopted, no, it's just the kid's imagination. That's how cool they think the game is. That's what they see when they're Jolteon attacks. They see it running across and jumping and doing all the electric. Fantastic. If this show captures the actual excitement of the card game, I cannot wait for it.
Agreed, because watching this trailer, it seems like whenever you see a Pokemon, it is within the TCG battles. Mm-hmm. And I think you're right that this series is almost maybe set in the real world. Pokemon don't exist. It's just, it's the media that we've currently got, and these people just enjoy playing TCG. And like you say, they imagine these epic encounters against the people that are competing within this club. And I'm really looking forward to just seeing how they handle this, because a lot of the other animes that we've had for Pokemon, they all follow the same format of it's set within the Pokemon universe. Which part of that universe is always up for debate and different, but we've never had anything like this, I feel like.
No. We've never had something, as far as I'm aware, at least animated, that was real world with Pokemon being a product within that world.
Definitely. What do you think of the animation style?
Very different was my first initial thought.
But what I do like about it is, like, this feels when I look at these characters, they almost feel like they would be at home in the old style TCG game that we used to have. You know, when you used to have those little character icons that you could customize to the bare minimum, it feels like these naturally would fit into there. And I'm a little bit annoyed that we didn't get this level of customization in the TCG when it was available in its old format, because these character designs, while some of them look quite boring and bland, but that's by design, because you can already tell the characters that probably aren't going to be in it that much and just background characters. But the ones that are obviously front and center have character to them. Their designs are really unique, and I do like it. And this is one of those animes that I would love to watch with my daughter, because we sometimes play the TCG. I've actually taught her how to play the trading card game, and it goes back to when I was a kid, and nobody wanted to learn it. Everyone just wanted to collect them, and I was always frustrated that I never had anyone to play with. So when my daughter was old enough, I was like, I'm teaching you how to play, and you're going to enjoy it. So every now and again we play it. So I think she will enjoy this. And
there's one thing I'm worried about.
Oh.
And that's the fact that our main character is said to have the partner Pokemon Oddish. So
right.
I don't know about any Oddish cards that are particularly good. Which worries me, because we're not going to have somebody who probably changes up their deck a lot. If Oddish is a partner Pokemon, like, that doesn't really make sense in real world TCG.
No, it doesn't.
You can play Gardevoir at Worlds, but have played Mew at International Championship. And there's nothing stopping you doing that. So I understand that you've always got the ace monster in Yu-Gi-Oh! Oddish seems like a weird pull for it. And I just don't know how they're going to pull it off. I'm skeptical, but I'm open to being wrong.
Yeah, because my first thought when you were saying that, I was thinking, so it's probably just the case of that this is a card maybe, or a deck that she's been handed down from, parents or relatives, brother, sister, whatever it might be. But then I got thinking, well,
but Pokemon has a rotating format.
Yes. And the old cards are like, I've played with an old Oddish and played the older decks with my daughter, and they are terrible to play with. Like, they do not hold up. They are low attack, need loads of energies. You have to flip several coins to deal damage. So I can't see that being it. And also in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have Exodia, and that's like from Yu-Gi-Oh's. I know that's not his name. From his granddad, and like, if you were going to do that with this, why would you pick Oddish? Like, it's really bizarre. It's a really bizarre through line. And the only thing I can think of is maybe she just has a deck that she really enjoys, and she can switch things up. But the one card she always loves to be in there is Oddish because it's just her favorite. Maybe that's the way they go down.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what format they put it in. If a legit, because here's the thing, this is obviously designed to sell the card game.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so at some level it's got to represent the card game, and with the way Pokemon works, Pokemon has always worked, is the show kind of follows the game because the show is there to advertise the game. So surely we're trying to advertise the card game as it is now. Or are we going to go, well, no, let's just show Pokemon as it was at the beginning when it was a lot simpler to get people on board. I just don't know how they're going to approach it, and we haven't got enough information yet.
No, we haven't, because Yu-Gi-Oh, like, it's been a long time since I've watched the anime. It's a long time since I played the game, but I'm pretty sure the rules are the same regardless of whether or not you're watching the anime or you're playing the actual game, right?
Ish. The early show didn't follow the rules at all because there weren't any.
Okay. Right.
The card game didn't exist, so they made up their own rules. Then they kind of followed the rules but had their own version of them. And then they did really well at following the rules, and then they made their own kind of rules up because they added motorbikes in, but tried to keep it as close to the official rules as possible. And then XYZs and Link Monsters were mostly official rules. And then they've gone down to Sevens, which is a completely different game.
A lot more complicated than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I say, it doesn't have to follow the game exactly.
No, it doesn't have to. I think I'd appreciate it more if it did, though.
Yeah. It'd be something I'd be interested in, but I am totally not the target market for this.
Agreed. Like, I think that for some people, like, they're promoting this, and for a subdivision of the fans might just, okay, we just want them to watch this because then they might go and collect it. We don't care if they battle. We just want them to collect it. So maybe that's why they can go, oh, we don't need to mirror the rules 1-to-1 because that's not the point of it. The point is just to sell more cards ultimately. But that's just the cynic in me, I guess, talking. But I'm looking forward to this show regardless.
But did you know that Path to the Peak is named after a card?
Was it from Champion's Path, by any chance?
I can't remember. Path to the Peak, it was a stadium card.
Oh, was it? Oh, I missed the stadium cards. They were so cool. The gym leader...
Chilling Rain.
Chilling Rain, right.
It came from.
Right. And
Good card.
What did it do?
Pokemon with a rule box, so that's your Pokemon Vs, GXs, any of that kind of thing, have no abilities.
Oh,
just at all.
That could shut some people
very
down.
Powerful
yeah,
card.
That's great. I like that they've named it after that. So the next piece of news that we're going to cover is Detective Pikachu returns. Now, I've never played the original Detective Pikachu game. Have you?
No.
Have you ever had any interest in playing it?
I was half tempted when the film came out.
Yes.
But I looked at a little bit of gameplay and went, it's not really a game I'm that interested in playing. Okay. Those kind of detective games, I've never picked one up, but I've never been compelled to pick one up.
Okay. I I've also never played it, but I really want. There's a part of me that goes, I need to just pick this up at some point because I've got a 3DS. I can play it. I just need to buy it, and I imagine it'd be quite cheap compared to the typical Pokemon games. The mainline games tend to hold their value, but Detective Pikachu, I imagine it's going to be quite cheap. Now, the question for me is whether or not I want to play the original before I play this, because this seems like a sequel because of the conversations that Pikachu has and the fact it's called Detective Pikachu Returns. But I'm wondering, because the difference was that was a 3DS game. This is a Nintendo Switch game. It's on a mainline console. And I'd like to think that the way you're going to do this is that it's not a sequel of sorts. It's a pseudo sequel of, if you've not played the original, it's absolutely fine. Within the first hour, we'll have explained basically, we're trying to track, well, they do it in the trailer. We're trying to track down my previous partner. This is the family that I'm involved in. And then these are the adventures that we go on. It just sets the scene without actually spoiling the game, which I really do appreciate, actually, the fact that, a lot of trailers nowadays, they do the money shots, don't they? And it's all the things that you would really have enjoyed if you experienced them yourself when you were watching the film or playing the game. This doesn't seem to have any of the money shots, which makes you think, okay, mate, I think there is a good story hidden under this, and I'm looking forward to play it. However, I have issues with this, which is annoying me. The first thing is, I think it's Sophia Goodman's face is absolute nightmare for you all. Like her ears popping out, big eyes, it just does not look good. Whereas a lot of the other character models do look quite good. However, speaking of character models, all the work that we did in Scarlet and Violet to add textures to those Pokemon, they're not in this game.
Not in the game that a lot of people will be picking up after the movie that had so much texture.
Well, not even, that, but also the fact that
these models already exist. We should have shifted them over.
Yeah, because Sudowoodo's in this, and you look at it, and I was like, why does Sudowoodo look shiny and bright? And then I looked at the one from Scarlet and Violet, and suddenly realized, okay, it's almost like they're using the Sword and Shield textures rather than the Scarlet and Violet textures, which is really weird. But then also in the trailer, there's a couple of characters that skip animation frames, just like Scarlet and Violet, which is worrying because this, I'd imagine, is an open world.
No,
Surely this would be the kind of, you go down routes, levels, that kind of thing. Maybe
I'm pretty sure it's the sort of thing where you just like touch a map and quick travel to places.
Yeah. So it's a little bit worrying that is happening in this game.
Is this a Game Freak game?
I don't know, to be quite honest with you. Are you going to Google that? Because I want to know now. Yeah, have a look. I've got a feeling it won't be. They've already got enough stuff on. Although it could be a subset of employees that work there, maybe. It's just infuriating that it's typical Pokemon company, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and suddenly they've regressed again on things that, because while Scarlet and Violet had, mixed reception, I think a lot of the one of the few things that people really praised was the fact that they'd improved the Pokemon textures and the models, and the fact that Pokemon that had fur actually had fur. Pokemon like Sudowoodo actually had a completely different body texture. Metal Pokemon were now truly shiny and sheen, and it was great. So I don't get why they've stepped back. I'm just typing furiously, trying to find information on who's developed.
It's the Pokemon Company.
Is that all it says? That's weird.
It's the Pokemon Company. It's made by Creatures, as far as I can tell. Yeah, developers, there's Creatures Inc., so it's not directly Game Freak.
But it is within that sphere.
Creatures also work on the mainline games. And in fact, that even goes back to what you were saying. Creatures do the
models, don't they?
Models, don't they?
This is what I'm confused about. I'm really confused by... And the only thing
Are they not allowed to use it?
I don't know. This is the weird thing about this trailer, is that on the surface it looks like a fun, enjoyable game, but when you dig a little bit deeper, there are some concerns.
Do you think there's somewhere at Pokemon who's like, no. Gen 9 has to be the best looking Pokemon game there is. And it's like, well, it's not a good looking one, so we failed. It's like, no, we haven't failed. We just need to make sure it is the best looking Pokemon game there is. Despite the fact that Snap exists. But, God, we got in trouble last week for saying that we didn't like Snap.
I did comment back to so someone said about I think it was me in the Devil's Advocate section. I said that it's just a blatant like nostalgia cash grab. But then I commented on YouTube basically go, listen, I think I was just reaching for straws at this point. Granted, I've not played it. Everything I've seen and heard paints it in a positive light, and I'm gonna play it at some point. But like the only thing I can think of as to why the texture models have reverted was this in development before Scarlet and Violet by a smaller group. It's therefore taken longer, and they're working off older models, which I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here because as far as I'm concerned, you would just import the new character models. I don't know much about game development, but it's just really weird.
Okay, other option, because this Pikachu needs to be far more animated than the Pikachus in Scarlet and Violet.
Agreed.
You need different rigging for it to have all the facial expressions and the talking and things like that. So it's not so much that they couldn't use those models as much as it's actually far easier to use the 3DS models upscaled. And then that's effectively what this is. Because they've already got all the rigging and stuff from the previous game. And you don't want to step too far past that to make the characters unrecognizable and things.
True.
I don't know. I'm throwing ideas out. This is obviously all speculation.
It is. What do you think about Pikachu talking? Did it throw you through a loop?
I mean, no, not so much because I'm aware of it now. I actually prefer it to Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
We'll talk about that movie at some point.
We will.
I don't know. It was weird that his mouth didn't match any of the words that were coming out of it.
I'm glad that wasn't just me. I sat there looking at him and something's off here.
It's because, as far as I could tell, they're not lines from the game. Okay. What we were hearing was just a voiceover, probably by the voice of Pikachu, but because it gives the release date and things like that. So what they've done is they've obviously got the actor in, but then just played gameplay footage clips.
Right, okay.
Of just Pikachu saying anything.
That explains that, okay. Because like there are certain words where it does look like... Because I kept going back, I was like, no, that matches up. Wait, no, that doesn't match up. It's really bizarre.
Also, we're assuming here that this game has voice acting. That's not something we necessarily know to be true.
I thought it did. I just assumed it did because I was like, well, voice acting in the trailer. But as we know that voice acting in the trailer does not mean... Actually, we only ever hear Detective Pikachu because all the other characters have pop-up boxes.
Uh-huh.
But I haven't played the original. I guess it would depend on the original. If the original had voice acting, I can't see them stepping backwards and going, this one isn't voice acted.
In Detective Pikachu, all cutscenes feature full voice acting, while the Pikachu with somebody's voice does make a cameo. The titular Detective Pikachu is instead voiced by somebody else. Okay, so yes, it does.
Okay. Oh, that's okay. Right, that might have make or break that game. Okay, right. I'm looking forward to playing this, despite my concerns. But I do want to play this on Friday, October the 6th. So not that long.
KG Tang. Why do I recognize that name?
Who?
KG Tang.
No idea.
The voice of Detective Pikachu. He is a voice actor. Okay. I recognize his name from somewhere. Okay. Doesn't matter.
Okay. Up next, Pokemon Go. We're going to very lightly touch on this. Just usual information, festival dates, Pokemon that are coming to the game. One of the surprises, there's going to be Pokemon up to and through the Paldean region in the game to celebrate 7 years. To recognize this, they showed a load of footwear, which is a weird... I thought was a weird choice at first, but the whole thing about Pokemon Go is you're supposed to get out and about.
Get walking, yeah.
Yeah, sure. So then it went through a load of different, pairs of shoes that match the generation that you got. Like the Sword and Shield ones had boots with a sword through the laces, and then apparently a shield, but it doesn't look like a shield. The sandals from Sun and Moon had a Sun and Moon icon that glowed. But then we got, and we were discussing this before we started recording, that there's a sneaky pair of shoes that's thrown in between Generation 8 and Generation 9 that we were trying to figure out what it is. And we came to the conclusion that it is, in fact, Legends Arceus, despite the fact the sandals don't look like the sandals from Legends Arceus.
Thinking about it further, I don't think it's got anything to do with the sandals in particular as much as it does the jade that's on them. There's a very good video out there by Loxton who basically broke down that all of Legends Arceus and all of Hisui specifically is about jade. Jade is kind of the stone that's embedded in Arceus's ring around him.
Oh, okay.
If you go into Kogita's house, the whole thing is green. There's lots of little, I think even when you transfer Pokeballs from Legends Arceus into the mainline games, they become the strange Pokeball, which are also jade in color.
Right, okay, so, you've solved it.
Possibly. That's the interesting part about this, though, is the fact that they're including it along with everything else. Although it makes sense because they're saying, hey, the games that introduce new Pokemon, we have them all. So it's saying we've got the Pokemon even from Legends Arceus.
Yeah. True, actually. Yeah, because Legends Arceus considered a mainline game?
Yes.
And it's
by all the standards that we have, yes, it's a mainline game.
And it's Gen 8, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it does make sense because I was about to say, like, the mainline games are always the ones that introduce new Pokemon, but then we've got Malton and Malmetal, which kind of confuse that ever so slightly.
Mm-hmm.
But the general rule is new Pokemon are introduced in the mainline game, and Legends Arceus felt like a mainline game. So it does make sense that its inclusion is in here, especially as in Pokemon Go, you can now get Hisuian Pokemon as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so you can get all Pokemon from generations 1 through to 9 in Pokemon Go. Let's move on to Pokemon Paldean wins. Now, did you at first think this was something to do with the DLC?
So I actually was watching this and I got really annoyed at it.
Okay.
Because it starts off and it's all sketchy. I'm like, yeah, guys, we're aware the game looks bad. You don't have to hide it from us.
That's what I thought. I honestly thought this is how they're going to get around it. Of this gives us more development time. Let's throw up just a bunch of sketches, and people will look at the sketches and go, "Oh, they're pretty," and they you can tell that the games are based on it, but not. They had to cut corners to try and get to the vision. But then, obviously, we got the reveal that this is a brand new animated web series set in the academy following a bunch of trainers, students that we've never seen before, for the most part. And it just says that we're going to watch them grow and learn as they take part in the academy school year.
Honestly, I'm really looking forward to this. I think Twilight Wings was fantastic. I think Hisuian Snow was fantastic.
Yeah.
I assume this is going to follow a similar suit. It's got that same kind of, how do I say this without coming across so mean? More effort style animation.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, it's prettier than the official anime. Well, actually, that being said, Horizons has looked really good. Horizons has looked really freaking good. But this is a different style.
Yes.
And it's one I associate more with Twilight Wings and Hisuian Snow.
Okay. What I do like about this, though, and it makes me more comfortable with Horizons, because I was worried that Horizons would try to do some of the Scarlet and Violet storyline, and then we'd have that issue that we had with Journeys, where Ash is in the Galar region but doesn't do the Galar story, and you kind of miss out on some of the things that you would like to see. And I was a bit worried, okay, Horizons, we're going to get the same thing where the things that I did like about Scarlet and Violet, they're going to miss, or there's a potential that they miss. this feels like it'll hopefully flesh out. And it's one of the great things we've said about the anime is it allows you to flesh out the region that they don't always do in the game. And it's one of the reasons why I am really excited for this series.
Yeah, these, generally speaking, allow us to explore different characters more in depth, which, if we've said it ourselves, Scarlet and Violet desperately needs.
Yeah, agreed. What do you think of the name? Because it's really weird, because you mentioned Hisuian Snow, and now we got Paldean Winds, so they're just taking the name of the region and adding some kind of weather to the end of it.
Not necessarily, because
then you said
at the end, you see them playing a flute or something in some kind of wind instrument in a band that's being orchestrated.
Oh, yeah.
So I assume that's what we're building up to.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense.
Are we going to travel around Paldea and listen to the music of the land?
The music is good, yeah. Those historical tunes that they come out with. Lack thereof. Let's move on to the Scarlet and Violet raid event that's coming up. Because we did discuss whether or not we thought there would be a raid event coming up, and then you pointed out last week that, you know, we've had these rumors of a Mew and Mewtwo event coming up. So they've come up with the creative event name of Get Mew and Mewtwo. So congratulations to their marketing department, absolutely nailing it. Honestly, when they announced that, I was like, okay, right. And before we jump into this, like, I've just got to point this out. Why does it? You know that meme that's like, stop trying to make something happen.
Yep.
This is Mew versus Mewtwo. Stop trying to make it happen. They have fought once, right? In the anime, which was the movie. And as far as I'm concerned,
remember there was a fake Mew and Mewtwo that fought, I think.
Right.
Or fake Mewtwo that fought a Mew.
Because it feels like to me, like Mew and Mewtwo had that misunderstanding. I say misunderstanding. Mewtwo came around to Mew's way of thinking and thought, oh, okay, yeah, I have been a bit of it, you know, let's calm it down. And my headcanons, they've been friends ever since. And yeah, they keep trying to make them fight.
I don't know. At least my understanding of it is Mew is always a tease.
Yeah, agreed.
Mew will forever wind Mewtwo up. So
yes. Yeah.
they neither can exist while the other survives.
I love that. I absolutely love that. So, what did you think of the? I'm quite glad that we got a little trailer for this, even though I don't think that it needed it. I think it benefited from it, because what other way do you get to show, like, the opportunity to show off Mew versus Mewtwo must be every creator's dream, because of, like, those Pokemon, the fact they can fly and they have psychic powers just gives you that freedom to really animate, and it really shows in this. It's absolutely beautiful. And we get to see. So at the start, you get to see the 3 evolved starter Pokemon. It looks like they're down on the last legs. Mew comes in, throwing psychic powers at one another, flying around. It looks absolutely beautiful. And the reveal was that you can get a Mew now. Right now. Until September the 18th. And its nature and terra type is randomized, which I absolutely love that. I love that, because, you know, when we've spoken in the past about, like, what makes your Pokemon different than another Pokemon, and the problem with Mystery Gift is you're getting the same Pokemon for the most part as everyone else, and granted, you can always change the natures and the moves and make it pretty much identical to someone else's. So what further steps can you do to make it feel like it's your Pokemon? And I think they've done it right with this. It's, you know, we're randomized terra type and randomized nature. And I know you could change them to make it identical, but at least there's some excitement there of, oh, which one am I going to get? I really like how they've done this.
Yeah, I think you're right. The fact that they are things that you can change means that it's such an easy thing to allow to be different.
Yeah. I think it's a great way to do these giveaways now. And then the Mewtwo raids will take place from Friday, September the 1st to Sunday, September the 17th. And if you catch the Mewtwo, you get the mightiest mark on it. And I know we speculated in the past whether or not you'd be able to catch the Mewtwo, because when Mewtwo was first came out in Sword and Shield in the raids, you couldn't catch it. You could beat it, you would get a load of rewards, you couldn't catch it. So it's quite nice that the fact that they're just skipping that step, and in a month or two time, you could have a Mew and a Mewtwo.
Both with the Mightiest Mark, possibly. Because
Potentially.
when we saw that leak, the idea was that you could fight the Mewtwo with your Mew. Mew gets a whole bunch of buffs, which is semi-confirmed in here. And something special will happen if you take Mew to that raid.
Yeah.
So we know what that is. That you get a whole bunch of buffs. And then if you defeated the Mewtwo, your Mew then ended up with the Mightiest Mark as well.
Right. Hey.
So how do you feel about this as a form of event?
I think it's a step in the right direction, but they still need to do more.
Okay, interesting.
Whether or not that's via store, so I think there's two ways they could go about it, and I think I'd be happy with either of them. One is more raids, and there's cutscenes that lead into that and after that, so it tells a self-contained story. I would like to see that, because then you can have other characters from the game pop in. So it could be that there's a really strong water-type Kyogre, and therefore the water-type gym leader comes along to help you, talks about it, and you get involved. The other way I could see it going is that there is, this month there is this raid going on, and there are certain Pokemon that if you bring to the fight, they will get buffs. And what I like about that is it would allow you to trial Pokemon that you might not have tried before and get to play with Pokemon. So it could be, okay, there's a Rayquaza fight, and if you bring these specific dragon Pokemon, like the dragon Pokemon that people maybe have overlooked in previous generations, and it gives you a chance to try something new with these Pokemon. If they went down either of those two routes, I think I would probably play a lot more than currently, where it's this month, it's this raid, I'm like, I can get that Pokemon anyway. Like, there's no appeal to it for me. So how do you make raids exciting? And I think this is a step in the right direction.
It's a step in the right direction. I think, honestly, the only reason we're getting this is because it's to hype up the fact that the DLC is coming out. It's to get people back on the game. And that's why they've been allowed to put a bit more effort into the raid event.
Yeah.
Honestly, because Pokemon is not a subscription-based model. There's no battle pass. There's nothing you pay on a monthly basis. We're never going to get really in-depth events.
No.
It's not to the point where characters are going to be showing up and giving you story. It's just not going to happen because there's no money for that.
No. But that's it. Like, if ever you wanted new characters or characters to come in and have new dialogue, there is time and money involved in making that happen. Whereas the current raid format, literally all you do is, it's probably in the back end, there's a drop-down box, like this Pokemon, this item, this ability, these moves, import, export, whatever it might be. That's pretty much what they have to do, which is the bare minimum.
Push an update that puts all these Pokemon into the game now. I mean, at this point, I assume they already know their final dex list. They already know all the Pokemon they're going to be in there from raids and through the DLC. So I have to imagine that they've got most of those sorted already. Maybe some of them are still being worked on. Maybe some of the later ones, they're still going, okay, do we want to change up his moveset? No. Do we need to change up his stats? No. Do we need to do this? Okay, does the model look right? How does the model look in each of the different hats? There's also possibly different kinds of terrestrialization happening, but we'll come on to that in DLC. The raid looks decent. I'm glad they're doing something with it. A free Mew is never a bad thing.
No, agreed. Let's move on to the Scarlet and Violet DLC, because we got the breakdown of both the Teal Mask and the Indigo. I want to say Indigo Plateau, but that's disc. Wrong. Indigo Disc. Thank you. Let's do these one at a time, shall we? Should we start with the Teal Mask?
Okay.
So the premise of this is that you are on a joint school trip with Briar, who is a new character from this other academy. I can't remember the Blueberry Academy. And you are one of 4 students who have been selected to go to this new area, and we are joined by not Nimona or Arvin or Penny. We are joined by who I'm going to call Glasses Guy, Black Hair Girl, and Cap Kid, who we'll probably never see throughout the rest of this. And like, this is a missed opportunity, right?
Agreed. Agreed. And I'll come on to it. It's fine.
Okay. So the trailer gives us an overview of the area, as it always does. You know, you get those sweeping shots. You get to see Pokemon. We're not going to break down the Pokemon that are in this. You'll be able to find that out elsewhere. But the key... Should we talk about the key takeaways from this? Things that we speculate, things that have been revealed that maybe haven't been released before?
Okay, go on.
So, should we start with Ogerpon and its appearance?
Yes.
Because it breaks the rules of Terra typing. Because all the Pokemon we've seen that have a Terra type, that terrestrialize, have one of the 18 different hats, for lack of a better term. This doesn't.
No, this mask gets really big.
It's really big. The horns extend as well. And they've on the actual Pokemon website, they've put, its appearance seems to differ from that of most other Terra Pokemon. Exactly what sort of power this legendary Pokemon possesses is still unknown. Which is really interesting that they've gone down this route. I kind of like this because it implies that there's a story element here that ties in with terrestrialization, which I'd imagine... It feels like this is this... You know, the Sword and Shield DLCs were separate, like very much felt like separate packages. Does it to you feel like there's maybe an overarching plot that follows from this one into the second part?
So we know there is, because two of the characters that we meet, Kieran and
who's the sister?
Carmine.
Yeah,
Carmine and Kieran. They are from Blueberry Academy, and they will also be in the next games, in the next part of the DLC.
Okay.
So we meet them in Kitakami, and then we go with them to Blueberry Academy as well.
Okay.
So there will be a follow through, and I'm just going to say it because I can't hold it back. Apparently, the whole DLC is building up to a final story that takes place in Paldea.
They've said that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've alluded to the fact that, hey, it's all coming together. And once you've gone to Kitakami, once you've gone to Blueberry Academy, you'll have a bunch of knowledge. And you'll be able to come back and work Area Zero out.
That's it. So I've got on from the Pokemon website an expanded story connecting back to the Paldea region. So like you just said, on top of your school trip in Kitakami and your studies abroad at Blueberry Academy, the story of the hidden treasure of Area Zero will tie back to the Paldea region as well. I am hoping, because one of my criticisms of the base game Scarlet and Violet was Area Zero. While I enjoyed it, it felt like it needed more.
Yeah, it was definitely tacked on at the end, and it almost seemed like, oh, by the way, here's a story, and it's like, where did this come from? This was nothing to do with what we were doing this entire game. Oh, it's over now. Okay, cool.
Yeah, agreed. So the fact that potentially we are heading back down, and I am hoping what we don't get is literally you're just going back down the same route, and then there's a Pokemon at the end of it. Like there's one door that opens up, and there's a Pokemon. What I want is, there's a whole area of Area Zero that you haven't explored, that you didn't realize was there, and in there is more to find out, more to unlock, and it does feel like they're going to answer some of the questions that people have had about the ending of Scarlet and Violet, where it feels incomplete. Mm-hmm. There are still questions about the machine, the professors, whether or not it is a machine that ties the past and the present, or whether or not it's this dream machine that some people have theorized about. I'm really looking forward to seeing where this leads us. And I think what I'm liking about what they've revealed so far is the fact that, you know, last week when we were talking about a sequel to Scarlet and Violet, the DLC that we got for Sword and Shield didn't really feel like... It felt like here are the side adventures. It wasn't a continuation. This
is what a champion does when they got nothing else to do.
Yeah.
You've beaten everything locally, it's time to leave.
Yep. This doesn't feel like that. It feels like... Because... What I do like about it is the fact that Scarlet and Violet, while it did leave a lot of answering questions, there was enough there for you to go, oh, the story's wrapped up. I'm done and dusted. I've got a few lingering questions, but I don't need them to be answered to understand the journey that we've been on and what's happened. So the fact that they are approaching this and adding more information, really do appreciate that. Kieran, do you think he has the potential? So I think there's potential with this Kieran character that he isn't quite what he seems, and I think he's responsible for what's going to happen with Ogerpon, because there are two key parts in this trailer where, one, there's some ominous music when they're spying on your character, and then there's another close-up shot of he clenches his fists a lot like you know that Arthur meme from Bay Arthur. So that's what it feels like. And the fact that this character carries over, and I'm pretty sure there's a line of dialogue in there about him being jealous or something like that. So I can't help but feel that he's responsible for some of the story and potentially the release of Ogerpon or the three Pokemon. Pheasantipity and the other two. I just like saying Pheasantipity.
The loyal trio.
The loyal trio. I can't help but feel that he's going to play a part in that. Do you think I'm onto something there or not?
So I have a feeling that he's going to inadvertently get involved. I am under the impression, and this is purely my own headcanon currently, my own speculation, that this is not the same Ogerpon, or Ogerpon as we know them is not the ogre from the story.
Okay.
But perhaps the mask is the same mask that ogre wore, and thus this otherwise shy, timid character, as we kind of see in its official artwork, when it takes the mask off, it's got that very like dark face, it's got those bright eyes. This otherwise shy character is put in a situation where they have to be big and scary, because that means they're not going to get pushed around anymore. And I have a feeling that Kieran is going to mirror that in some way. We've been introduced to him as this shy, doesn't want to be away from his sister, and maybe goes out on a bit of an adventure with you. You stomp him into the ground because of course you do.
Yeah, yeah.
And he maybe takes the wrong path or is misled and is tricked into doing things. I'm not sure. I don't think he's an outright villain.
No, agreed.
But I think he could easily be tricked or take the understanding of an otherwise villainous Pokemon.
Okay. What do you make about the mask falling off? We see it for a split second.
Do we?
Yeah, the mask is bouncing down some stairs. Just the mask, not the Pokemon.
I suppose the question is, when does that take place? Does that take place at the start, or
Wow.
does that take place at the end?
This is it. It's quite. I thought my first initial thought was, if you see something like that, typically it's when the hero has fallen. Typically, the sword falls down, the shield comes down, whatever it is, it bounces down. It's that cinematic, that they've lost. That's where my head goes to. But for all we know, this could be at the start of the adventure. They've discovered the mask falls down, Pokemon retrieves it. Who knows what is going to happen? But I've got a lot of questions about Ogerpon. And
I think you're supposed to.
Yes. And I quite like the fact that it doesn't feel like what they've done in the past where, here's a new Pokemon, here's all the information on the website, and then you get into the game, you catch it, and you think, oh, that's it. Right. Okay. There is mystery around this Pokemon, and I'm really looking forward to uncovering the mystery, figuring out the story behind this Pokemon, and just how it ties into the terrestrialization phenomenon. That is the biggest takeaway for me, is just why is this mask different? And what does that mean for the story and the mechanics of Scarlet and Violet?
Well, we know terrestrialization is getting a change, because we now found out as well that the Terrapagos that we've been seeing, the big turtle from the Indigo Disc, is the terrestrial form of the tiny little Terrapagos that we were introduced to first in the anime. So terrestrialization is changing. And somebody said to me as well that they saw one of the normal Pokemon terrestrialized without a crown. I haven't seen it in the
what?
trailer yet, but apparently that has been spotted. I will have to
Oh,
double check myself at some point.
yeah, okay.
There
I
you
want to know
go.
more about that. Oh,
On the level of the teal mask, though, so we got to see Ogerpon. We got to see Ogerpon's mask terrestrialization. We also got to see the Loyal Trio. We got to see the Loyal Three. We got to see their moves. We got to see them do some moves. And I want to know if you have thoughts on what typing these Pokemon might be.
So, funnily enough, when you mentioned that, when I was snipping through the video, I said I'd come back to that because I thought there'd be clues. I never came back to it. So I don't have an answer to you, to be quite honest with you. But have you got thoughts on that?
So I'm literally just looking at it now.
Okay.
What spun me, what clued me in was Monkey Dory, because it kind of like throws its hands up, closes its eyes, wiggles its fingers, and purple spiral energy comes out of it. And it looks very much like a psychic type move.
Okay.
And then after that, you've got Okidogi doing a big punch from across the arena.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, is that a fighting type move? It explodes with orange energy, which is more fighting type, but it starts with green energy. So what does that mean? We're trying to decide what type of move is based off its coloring, based off its animation.
Yeah.
But I can't for the life of me work out what Pheasantipity might be. It kind of looks like Moonblast a little bit, but I assume these are all signature moves.
Yes.
Fairy Psychic Fighting? Surely you do Fighting Dark Psychic, I'd have thought.
You'd think so for that little trio that you
Triangle.
can have going on. Yeah.
But these do not at least appear to be the water, fire, grass starters we assumed they were at one point.
Yeah, which I'm actually glad. Like, I do enjoy. It was one of the highlights for me playing Scarlet and Violet of when you finally take on the professor at the end, and they have their team of 6 Paradox Pokemon, and just sat there just thinking,
I don't know
what typing is this? Yeah, and you're trying to cycle through your Pokemon, trying to figure out what is super effective against it, and it's why that battle is one of my favorite battles in the entire of the Pokemon. The games,
because you actually had to think about it.
Yes, it wasn't just right now I swap out to the Firemon, now I swap out to the Electricmon. It was very much a case of not only figuring it out but trying to survive. And the fact that they haven't revealed the typings of these Pokemon, I'm hoping that continues. And when you do get into these battles, you then need to, okay, right, I need to think a bit on the spotty, and it just makes you. It makes you enjoy the gameplay and appreciate the battle mechanics a little bit more. So I like the fact that we're trying to figure out what typings the Pokemon are, but I hope they don't reveal the typings.
Yeah, I agree.
Was there anything else that stood out in this first part? I think the traveling photographer's in this one, right?
Yes, it is.
Perry.
I'm kind of really looking forward to this. So I have mixed feelings on this one, simply because this almost seems like the answer to let me be a professor's research, and let me go do stuff for the Pokedex. My issue is that we see us running up to this Sudowoodo, we pull out our camera, and Sudowoodo goes, "Hi," which, okay, is it going to be a bunch of scripted events? Is it go find this one Pokemon in this one position who's going to do this one thing? Or have they somehow got? I don't. It's
I know what you're wishing.
I know they do it in a specific area, so it's possible that they've got scripted events running around, and you can run into them as and when you search for this mysterious Pokemon. We'll take you into the Timeless Woods. So that's the other thing as well. We're looking for a new Pokemon.
I didn't notice that. Right. Okay, so another new Pokemon outside of the ones that we've already had revealed, which is 4 more in this trailer. So there's potentially another Pokemon to come. Okay.
So who knows? Maybe Timeless Woods is going to be self-contained enough that they're like, no, we've just got in here, in this one area, we've got AI. We've got Pokemon that interact with each other and things like that. I'll take it. I would honestly take it at this
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the most fleshed out thing in the world because it's a mini game.
Yeah.
And this is effectively the Teal Masks version of the races that we're getting in the next game.
Yes.
Or in the next part of the DLC.
Because one of the things we said leading up to this release of Scarlet and Violet is we wanted the Pokemon to feel like they are living creatures. We didn't get that, unfortunately. So if we can get that in the DLC and just with this one little subpart, it almost gives you that not relief, but it's almost like, okay, it scratches that itch a little bit. It's not quite what I wanted, but I'll take it, baby steps.
Someone out there is thinking the same thing I am, so maybe eventually we'll get that game.
Eventually, maybe one day we will. I would love to see that. And it's really annoying because the trailer does what the Scarlet and Violet trailer did, where it looks like the Pokemon are alive, for lack of a better word. There's a lot of screenshots where it's screen grabs that I've got of when there's I think an Apom just lying down on a rock, relaxing and things like that. And I just think we saw these kind of shots in the initial trailers for Scarlet and Violet, and you didn't deliver on them, or we missold them, or whatever. We go back to the review episode for our thoughts on that. But what we were shown wasn't what we got ultimately, and I'm just a little bit worried that might be what we get here. And like the Pseudo-Wudo, for example, is literally there is one Pseudo-Wudo that will do that one animation, and that's your photo, and that's not what I want. That's not what I want. But what do you think of Perrin's design?
She looks like they are related to the gym leader from X and Y. Although we know she has a... That's just because she's a photographer, to be honest with you. They don't actually look similar in the slightest.
They've got similar hair, that kind of...
They got similar looking cameras. I'm sure they're related.
That must be it. Yeah, that's how you prove your lineage. It's the camera that's handed down throughout the generations. But I've seen comments online about them being released to Amadan from Legends Arceus. Whoever the I need to play that game again.
Yeah.
Because the hair colors and stuff like that. Yeah. This is the thing about Pokemon is you always get the speculation of these characters are related, and they never reveal it. They never have any lines of dialogue. But why would they? Like, oh, nice to meet you, Play. Did you know I'm the descendant of a leader in the Hisuian region?
But what we'd get is, my family's from Sinnoh.
Yeah. Your little things like that. I want more that I want these characters to feel alive, and we never really truly get that. But I like the character design. I like the fact that it gives us a chance to play with the photography mechanic, which outside of literally
Snap. Well, they had the camera in the game.
Oh, but
you could take pictures of your Pokemon.
How much did you use it?
I tried to do it once and then couldn't figure out how to change my trainer tag or my trainer background, so gave up.
Because it's not on the same location. It's utter nonsense how they developed that. You think you take your camera and then you could then take the photos and then set them. It's in a different menu. It's ridiculous. And I would love to use the camera functionality more. The only time I've ever used it is when I was doing my when I modded Scarlet and Violet, and the absolute just insanity that came out of that, and I had to use the photo mechanic to capture some of the good screenshots. And then also when I did the cage lock with British Eagle, and then before we went to a battle, I would always take a silly picture to show on the train screen, and one of them was a Luxray's bum. So it was just like, nice. What is that? He's like, what is that? I'm like, never mind, you don't need to know. So that's the only experience I've had with the camera, but I would love to see more of that, and I'm looking forward to it.
I did say as well that this is the answer to racing in the second one. That's not true. Apparently, the racing minigame style
it's in
thing,
this one,
otherwise known as Ogre Oustin, is in this one. So
you pop balloon, you drive around, you pop the balloons. But what I did notice is that in the trailer there's a Miraidon and a Koraidon, both with player characters popping the balloons. Are we finally getting some kind of competitive overworld minigame?
Oh, were they in the same?
They're in the same. Both of them are in the same game. The Miraidon, I think, is at the front, and then the Koraidon's at the back running around, and they're both popping balloons.
Interesting. See, this is the bit where I've only watched this trailer once.
Oh, I had to watch it twice. I always do that. I watch it the first time just to enjoy it, and then the second time I go back and take snippets and screenshots and write down what I see. Have you seen it?
I'm having a look at now.
Okay,
so right on. Oh yeah, no, you're right. They're
see
both
them both
there.
Yeah. Are we finally getting some
Can you do
overworld?
verses?
Yeah. Could you imagine that?
Yeah, I could.
Yeah,
It's exactly what we should have.
Agreed. Like the fact that when you join Scarlet and Violet, again, a step in the right direction, being able to join in and both of you able to fully explore the map and catch Pokemon in that format. But the fact that you couldn't use that double format in anything else, whether or not it's the gym trials, battles, anything else like that, it was a missed opportunity. So the fact that we might potentially have it for this is amazing, because I can just see some of the fun competitive, or those kind of videos on YouTube that you see, like first we raced in and then we battle and stuff like that. I could really see this being used for that kind of format. The rewards for completing this are Mewtwo, which helps Pokemon to grow strong, either reset EVs or increase EVs in a stat. So basically, it's another way to, train for competitive Pokemon. Is it faster than using proteins and stuff like that? I guess we'll find out. Probably quicker, though.
It depends, again, how easy they are to grind for.
Yes.
Yeah. Or, what we really should be looking at it is how fun they are to grind for.
Yes, agreed. And to be fair, fair play to Game Freak that whenever they do anything around the EVs, there's always a new fun aspect in every game. They don't just recycle the same EV training reset format that they always do. They always think up new ways to do it. So got to give them credit there. Also, another reveal that we get in this part of the trailer, we get a selfie stick, which
cool. Why not?
Yeah, sure. I was like, okay, I didn't need that, but it actually does kind of make sense, because obviously the shots that you take, they're always at arm's length. This, if it allows you to get that further out, you know what? Actually, yeah, I'm on board with that. Sure. That's all I've got for the teal. No, wait, I have got one annoying little thing.
Go on.
So at one point we see Surskit on water, and we see Corphish that is half on the beach, half on the water, and there is no
transition.
There's no graphics underneath those Pokemon when their feet touch the water. And Surskit, I know that Surskit skims on the water.
The top of the world. Yeah.
I get that.
I see it. Yeah.
But I saw one of these bugs when I was in Disneyland Paris on the water, and it leaves little trails on his feet as it's skimming around. That's what I want to see. And the Corphish, it's literally planting its legs in where the water is, and there's no little splashes or anything like that. And just a little attention to detail.
Considering that this is not an actual shot taken from the game, this is a development copy of it where they've placed these two Pokemon in and just made them do their idle animation, and they still went, that looks fine.
Yeah. So
that's good enough.
Yeah, it's infuriating. I think this finally answers the question of, are they going to do anything about the graphical issues of Scarlet and Violet in the DLC? No, they're not. They're not. We are just getting new areas to discover, new Pokemon, as well as returning Pokemon, and a new storyline. They are not going to fix any of the Scarlet and Violet issues. Whether or not those same issues are present, we'll have to wait and see, because these are both set on different areas. So I'd imagine new areas built from scratch maybe don't have some of the same issues, but we'll see.
Talking of new Pokemon, do you want to do the new Pokemon that we're going to get in the Teal Mask and then transition through Indigo Disc doing the new Pokemon in that?
I like that. Yeah, let's do that. But I can't remember which ones we're
getting Diplin,
which
is the new evolution for Applin, which is based on a candy apple.
I'm glad we started with this one. It's the weakest of the four that we're getting, I think.
I think so as well.
It's not one that I expected to be quite honest with you. The only link I can see as to why we got this is because of the apple fields that are revealed in. I can't remember if this is the DLC part 1 or part 2, but they talk about the inhabitants feast on the apple trees that they've got. So it makes sense that, okay, Apple, let's introduce a new apple Pokemon. But was anyone asking for a new Appling evolution? We already got...
but it does have an interesting statement on here. So a newly discovered evolution of Applin. It's completely distinct from Flapple and Appleton. The head sticking out seems to belong to one of two separate creatures, while the tail belongs to the other. Both creatures help each other out from within the shared apple.
Interesting. Okay.
So this might be a case of A, is there another Pokemon like Applin kicking around?
Oh.
Is there maybe a regional form of Applin? And the only way to evolve the regional form is with a Galarian form of Applin, and then the two come together.
Okay.
I don't know. We could finally see, and I'm literally going off a tiny bit of text. This has not been promised. We all know how this has ended for me.
I know where you're getting with this.
Are we finally going to get the Slowbro evolution?
Yes. The one that actually, like, it's always annoyed me that I get the limitations back in the day, like, you should have a Slowpoke and a Shelder in your team, and something happens to evolve them into Slowbro. And there's things like Magnemite, Diglett. There's so many of those different variations where it shouldn't just be a straight level up evolution. Do I want that for this? Yes, of course. I always want more weird evolution mechanics. But I don't think we'll get it, which annoys me. But that is news to me about it being two Pokemon sharing an apple. I quite like that idea. I understand its design. I do love the apple and the syrup coming off it. I do enjoy that. It's still a weird Pokemon. Let's just talk about its moves that it gets. So it gets Syrup Bomb, which I do love the name of that. One move that Dipling can learn, Syrup Bomb, is a grass type special attack that causes an explosion of syrup. This move coats the target in syrup and causes its speed stat to lower each turn for 3 turns. And then its ability, Super Sweet Syrup. Its ability appears for the first time in Part 1, the Teal Mask. When Dipling first enters battle, the scent of its syrup spreads across the battlefield, lowering the evasiveness of opposing Pokemon. Now, that ability, I could actually see being used in competitive, because how many powerful moves have you got that are 85, 90% accurate? And they could cost you the fight?
Yeah.
Like, there's some... So while the design is the one I'm not that fussed about for Appling, its move and abilities, I think could see some niche use, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, it does say only opposing Pokemon as well, so that could be really good in doubles.
Yeah, exactly. You swap it in and it does that.
And suddenly Rock Slide is almost guaranteed to hit both Pokemon. Okay. Yep. Yeah, no, I could see that. Lowering speed 3 turns in a row seems really strong as well.
It does, doesn't it? It really does, because, again, speed plays such a huge part in competitive. I really think that this could be the next... Amoonguss always seems to be in teams because of its
don't know about that.
Diversity. It's one of those that could be appearing more.
To ice.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You never know. But the one question I've got for you, and I'm going to ask this for each of them: Poker Heart or Poker Knot?
For me, this is a Poker Knot.
Okay.
And I'll probably say the same about the other Pokemon. That is very much seems like they went, hey, I've got an idea for a gimmick. Okay, do you mean a Pokemon? No. I said what I said. Why don't we have a candy apple Pokemon? Oh, well, we've already got an apple Pokemon, and it kind of turns into an apple pie and a worm inside an apple. So that's fine. It'll just be a new version of that. We'll just have a candy apple Pokemon.
So
we've also got a bridge Pokemon that I want you to check out.
Okay.
Anyway.
So let's move on to Archaludon? Archaludon, maybe?
Sure.
I mean, they did say it in the trailer, I think, but we completely missed it. So this is an evolution of Duraludon, a Pokemon that nobody thought we would get an evolution for, and basically makes Duraludon busted now because you'll be able to whack an Eviolite on it.
Yeah.
Taking
It's
it.
a way to look at it.
Yeah, and it already had a really high base stat of like 5.35, which puts it in the top tier of Pokemon with a really good typing as well, and you can make it even more busted. But the main change about this Pokemon, it's a bridge. So it says, in a pinch, it takes on a bridge-like appearance. Extends its normally bent torso, trading some of its mobility for a more stable center of gravity. While it's like this, the Pokemon resembles a magnificent steel bridge. So are we getting a Pokemon whose ability maybe changes depending on the form, or what the ability does changes based on the form?
Don't know.
The fact that it says trading some of its mobility for a more stable center of gravity.
Yeah, so what you could do is, so when in trouble, so for instance, like Defeatist, it becomes an opposite form of Defeatist. Similar to, we have, Anger Shell.
Yes.
Anger Shell?
Yeah.
That's from Cloth, who gets that thing where once it reaches half health, it drops all its defenses, but buffs its speed and attack and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I could see this lowering speed for a more stable center of gravity. What does that even mean? That's
the strange part, isn't it?
Increased accuracy?
Maybe. I'm not quite sure. And this Pokemon is weird because
I'll be honest with you, I don't think that's got anything to do with ability. I just think that's flavor text for the animation that it does when it attacks.
Potentially, yeah. So, do you think this Pokemon is staying as a Steel Dragon type? Because it talks a lot about electricity.
Yeah, it's a Steel Dragon type.
Oh, has it been confirmed?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a shame. I would have liked to have seen it. But again, another one of those Pokemon where this is why I love terrestrialization, is because it has electric type moves. You could potentially terrestrialize it into electric type to boost its new moves even further. It has a new move because, of course, it does Electro Shot. So the Pokemon gathers vast quantities of energy and fires off a high voltage bolt of electricity under rainy weather conditions. Archaludon can immediately fire off this attack without having to spend time charging up. So it's the equivalent of
Solar Beam.
Yeah. Which I quite like that as well, because if your opponent sets up a rain dance trying to outsmart you, and you can then bring this in and do that.
Yeah, weird Pokemon to give it to first.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with you there. It is a really weird. I get their decision to go, oh, let's make it into a bridge. Sure, fine, whatever. But how do you connect electricity and bridges?
Okay, so because it's Tower Bridge, I assume. Does the bridge raise up through electricity? Don't know. Here's a question as well. We're obviously looking more into terrestrialization. So as we spoke about, we're going to get different masks for the Loyal Trio and at least Ogerpon. And we know that the I've forgotten its name, the turtle, is changing its appearance entirely due to terrestrialization. Are we going to finally get Terramax forms? Which is a case of, if you terrestrialize this Archaludon, that's a terrible name, Archaludon, into an electric type, it gets a different form entirely.
Are we getting that? No, I don't think so, because it's more work for them. And I know I'm saying that because with Gen 8, we did get the G-Max forms, and they were completely new forms, but they were there for the most part from the creation of Sword and Shield. Like, you go into Sword and Shield, like, those Pokemon are there. Adding them in DLC, it just feels a bit left field. I can understand.
Well, we had Gigantamax forms added in the DLC though. Urshifu obviously got Gigantamax forms. The starters only got their Gigantamax forms in the DLC,
but they were additions to what was a system that was already there. I'm not saying it.
But they were already making those additions.
Yeah,
with
they
the masks
are.
and with Terrapagos.
True.
So it would make sense to me to tie this back to Paldea to be like, no, terrestrialization as we know it is evolving.
Yeah. Okay. I would like to see. I would like to see it because some of those G-Max forms are some of the most beautiful Pokemon designs we've had. Some of them are absolutely gorgeous, and the love that went into them. And it's just a shame that we didn't have the textures of Scarlet and Violet in them, because they would have made them look so much better when they were already like a really high level of design. But the cynic in me, it's extra models that they have to create, and I just don't. I'd imagine the Pokemon that have custom Terra types that don't fit one of the initial 18 will be because they fit within a certain they're part of the story, and that's why they get different terrestrializations.
Okay.
But I guess we'll see when it comes out. I want to like the more new forms. Always enjoy that, but I can't see that happening on this Pokemon. Pokeheart or Pokenut?
At the moment, it's Pokenut. I don't like its design. I don't like that it looks like a big paper chomper, like a stapler remover.
Doesn't it? I used to love playing with them as a kid. It's dangerous. Just clicking them.
Paper chomper. I just heard it. But yes, I'm not a fan of its design. I don't. Okay. Yeah, I could leave this one.
Okay, I do like its design. I don't like it when it's flat, but when it's stood up, I can see the progression from Duraludon. I enjoy Duraludon. I think it's a really strong design. You know, a steel skyscraper. I love it. So it is a Pokeheart for me. I didn't talk about the Appling or Dipling, whatever it's called. It's Pokeheart for me. I'm really not that fussed about that. But let's move on to the two that I think everyone is talking about here. Should we talk about Raging Bolt or Iron Crown first?
Let's do Raging Bolt. Because I think Raging Bolt is getting more attention.
Yes. Have you seen mainly positive or negative attention?
I've seen mostly memes, if I'm honest with you. Yeah. People just going, why is it a giraffe, though?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Why is it the Brontosaurus from Jurassic Park?
I've seen a load of memes, and people... most of the comments I've seen are people that are disappointed, but I don't see where that disappointment comes from, because I really like this design.
I have bits of it I really like, and I have bits of it I'm not okay with.
What are the parts that you like?
I love the idea of its head being a thundercloud.
Yes.
That's why it's so high up, because it is one long thundercloud with a lightning bolt stretching from the top to the bottom. Yep. Cool. Very cool. It gives off that regal, I am the god of thunder kind of feeling. I don't like its front legs.
Oh, I love his front legs.
I don't like his legs. I don't like the way its legs stand. It's because it arches upwards.
Yeah.
And then it like leans forward in battle. I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't know what it is. It feels like it should fall over.
Okay, right. I get what you mean now, because when I said I liked it, I was looking at the artwork that they produced, but actually looking at it, I've got a screenshot of it in game, and yeah, I see what you're saying now. It feels like those front legs would work if it's always stood up, but the moment it comes down, all its weight goes forward.
And the worst bit as well, when you have it in battle, apparently that big cloud-like ruffle around its neck flies backwards and reveals just a Raikou face.
Oh, no, I don't like that.
At the top of this giraffe, at the top of this Brontosaurus, is just a cat head, a saber tooth. Why?
It
doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And it almost feels... People really quite liked, at least to my knowledge, people liked Walking Wake. Because we could see the design elements you'd taken from Suicune, but it was very much not Suicune.
Yes.
Whereas... the head just makes this like, you haven't just taken designs from Raikou, you've just put its head on a completely different Pokemon.
Yeah, when I look at this design, and I think if you chopped off its the top of its neck to the bottom of its neck and whacked its head onto the bottom part, and then put it next to Raikou, there isn't enough of a difference between the two.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the Walking Wake and Suicune, like you say, it was so different between the two. Yet you could see the common the commonality, but there was more that was different between the two than there was the same, whereas this feels there's more of the same than what is different, and I think it suffers because of it. And I think if the clouds were wrapped around its face all the time, I think it'd be a stronger design.
Yeah, I agree. And the worst part about this is, did you see the fan artwork that had already made Raikou a long-necked creature?
So
it looked phenomenal.
Yeah, so I have seen it simply because I saw the people pointing out, oh, I called this months ago, but I can't remember what it looks like now off the top of my head. But what I have seen is the fact that a load of people are predicting the Entei is going to be a Triceratops style Pokemon.
I disagree. I'd say Stegosaurus.
Oh,
given that it's already got those 3 spikes on its back where its big cloud mane comes off of, it's set up already to be a Stegosaurus.
That makes sense. I like that idea.
That's me. That's my shout. There you go.
And it would follow the theme of dinosaur style creatures,
which means naturally it's going to be nothing to do with the dinosaur.
Of course not. No, why would it? Yeah, they set the rules.
We're actually going to have an elephant Entei.
What it past them, you know.
It's a woolly mammoth now. What are you gonna do?
Yeah, you ain't got a choice. Like whatever they do, they do. What do you think of the name?
Raging Bolt. Fine, cool.
I enjoy it. I like it. I like it more than Walking Wake. I feel like, but I do like Walking Wake. Poker Hot or Poker Not?
I'll give it a Poker Hot. I like its cloud beard.
Yes, me too. Poker Hot. And then we have Iron Crown, which again follows the theming of the Swords of Justice having futuristic mechanical forms. This one doesn't disgust me as much as the last one.
No, I wasn't a big fan of Iron Leaves. I'm not a big fan of most of the Violet Paradoxes, the future forms. I think they're far too much. It's that Pokemon robot.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do anything for me. And looking at the official artwork for this, I thought the same thing. I'm like, I really like the colors. I really like what you're doing with the head being in half and got those like blue lights that we still see down the front of what's your motorbike? Do you know this is really bad when I'm forgetting Pokemon names?
Miraidon. Yeah.
Those same kind of like speckly energies. Looks very cool. However, the in-game version of this, its horns give off this huge energy, and it looks so regal and powerful.
And they flow as well. Yeah, they flow as well, don't they? It looks absolutely amazing. I was the absolute same. It's one of those Pokemon where I looked at the official artwork afterwards. I was like, oh, that is disappointing. And then when I looked at it back again in the gameplay, I was like, oh, okay, like really like the design of this Pokemon. It's really weird though, because Iron Leaves, was it?
Mm-hmm.
That its design was really close to the original version it's based off. And I think a lot of people were disappointed by that. And yet this is quite similar to Cobalion, but I feel differently about it. I look at it and go, I really like this design.
I think this is because, and it's all to do with how that gameplay shot looks, with its horns looking differently. It looks like an upgrade.
Yes.
It looks like somebody's gone, yes, but cooler.
Yeah.
Which is what, if you're going to robotify Pokemon,
what you want,
then go, yes, but cooler. Don't just go, that thing again, but robot. It's like, no. Give me more. Give me something that I can't get from the official, not the official, the non-artificial version of it.
Yeah. Agreed. So that is the 4 new Pokemon that are being, I say 4 new Pokemon, the 4 new reveals that we had in this Pokemon Presents, which leads us back around to the second part of the DLC, the Indigo Disc. So the first question I've got to ask you, do you like the biome split?
No, I think it's far too straight, and I think it's far too one note from what I've seen of it.
Okay.
The fact that it's like, here's the icy area, it's all ice. And I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, that's not how you do a biome.
Yeah,
It's like, it's fine for an area to be icy, but make the top of the mountains icy, and then show me what the bottom of those mountains look like. Show me about the Pokemon that live in the colder environment, but not where it's snowing.
Yeah.
That's how you do a biome. You don't just go, but it's ice here.
It's ice everywhere.
And this is the hot bit, so it's
Yeah.
desert.
Yeah.
It's all desert, all the way across. It's all desert.
Yeah. No, I agree. It is. It should have been a transition almost. You start in the middle part, and the middle part you then explore out, and one area gets colder as you progress. One area maybe gets hotter as you progress. One area maybe becomes more ocean-like as you progress. That's how they should have done it, and it's a shame that they've not. This does get around the issue I think that Scarlet and Violet had, where like the biomes didn't really flow into one another very well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a way that they just get around that of, oh, it's artificial.
It's science.
It's just artificial. You don't need to worry about it. And it's one of the reasons why I think Legends Arceus, I preferred the regions, is because you didn't need to have, oh, this lava area flows somehow into the beach area. You just go, no, they're just two separate locations.
Well, no, because even in that, they did do that. They had the volcano island off the side, and then you had the beach area, and then beyond the beach area, you had the grasslands, and then it did get slightly more mountainous. The region made sense.
No, you're right. Actually, now that I was thinking back and got it completely wrong.
You know, even in the snowy tundra part of the game, yeah, sure, it's snowing all the time here, but we already know we're further up in the mountains anyway. And it gets icier the further you get. There are glacial tunnels and things like that. It's not just blanketed in ice and that's the ice area. I don't know. Sorry, I feel like I'm complaining a lot.
Let's talk about something that I think you probably liked about this. New experiences, including student life.
Yeah, interesting. We'll have to explore this further.
Because you enjoyed the lessons that you could do. Yeah. And we're getting more of them.
And the idea is now that you can have your own like club room, and you decorate your club room, and then you get to invite people up and you learn about them.
You can invite them, yeah.
You can invite
Demoni, want to come round?
We can invite Larry round. We can get to know Larry.
I actually would enjoy inviting Larry round, because he's one of those people that I have you ever met one of those people that have, I call it negative charisma, where they are where they're so uncharismatic that they circle back around and become charismatic? Larry's one of them. I do like the fact that we get to, because what I'm hoping that opens up avenues to get to know these trainers more and find out more about them and learn about them. And again, going back to one of those things where it just makes it feel like you're part of the world, and the world didn't just start when you happen to wake up that one morning and decide to go on your Pokemon journey. So I am looking forward to that. You can also change your Pokeball throwing style, which is something I never thought we'd see.
Weirdly, something I think was meant to be in the base game.
How come?
Because Nemona is constantly talking about how she can't throw Pokeballs. She's constantly talking about, I am good at training, but I can't throw Pokeballs correctly.
Okay.
I feel like this was always supposed to be part of the game, and we're only just getting it now.
Just got pushed back. It does feel really weird how they went, you can decorate your own room. Also, you can change your Pokeball throwing style. It doesn't feel like, why does that matter about...
Why would that be here?
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get different trainers to show you how to throw Pokeballs differently.
You do see other trainers throwing them differently in the trailer, but I don't know if that's a trailer thing, or maybe that is a part of this BB league. Maybe each of them have a different throwing style. So you've got your default, you get an extra 4, bringing the total to 5. And again, I like that because it's another one of those ways that where you want your own identity. And it's one of the things that Pokemon Go does really well in terms of all the... It hasn't got an amazing range of customization, but it has started to include more of that kind of player customization. The mainline game should have that, so that you actually feel like, oh, this is my character and my adventure. How can you do that? This is another way that you can, which I really do like. Another thing it said is when you invite the trainers from the base game to get to know them, you can apparently battle them as well. So is this going...
And trade with them if you win.
Oh, I didn't spot that. You can trade with them.
So when you invite a trainer over, you can talk to them and take photos together. If you defeat one of these trainers in battle, you'll also be able to trade Pokemon with them, and you might just see a side of them you hadn't seen before.
Oh, okay, right. I'm looking forward to that.
Which is cool when I start giving all of the gym leaders back in Paldea all of the Paradox Pokemon.
Just give him a Paradox Pokemon.
There you go. Yeah, no, let's trade. I'll take your Crabrawler, sure.
Yeah, sure.
Here's one of the most powerful Pokemon ever to exist. Have fun.
I'd love that. Do
you want a Mewtwo? Here's a Mewtwo, bro.
I wonder if there's a limitation. Do you want a Mew with the Mightiest Mark? Steel Terror Attack, go for it. Yeah, I don't. I've got plenty.
Hey, I got an entire box of these hacked Pokemon I keep getting for Wonder Trade. I'm just gonna give you a shiny Rayquaza. Why not?
I would love that, and then see them using that and
see them using it in the next time you battle them. Yeah,
that would be fantastic. We get introduced to this BB League, so we got Drayton, Crispin, Lacey, and Amaris. I think it's pronounced. So is this another version of an Elite Four?
I think they are called the Elite Four.
Yes. So this is
they set you on Elite Trials.
That's it.
And then you get to do the Elite Four battle.
One of the trials is the Flying Time trial. If ever you played Spyro back in the day, it was infuriating because I can fly in these one-off levels, but I can't fly in the main game. I can only glide, and they actually tease this because the narrator actually says perhaps this latent power will be fully unlocked someday. Yeah. Well, what does that mean? Like when?
It means maybe once you beat in this half of the game and the second half of the DLC, and then when you go back to Paldea, maybe it's the fact that you can fly now.
Yes,
opens up the bits of Area Zero that we didn't get to see before.
Oh, that's not a bad shout.
So it's like, no, you're not going to get it in the main part of the DLC, but in the DLC post game where we go back to Paldea, that's when it gets unlocked.
And it feels like it would be a nice natural progression to rock climb, because there are some areas in Scarlet and Violet where you have to use rock climb. It's infuriating because it isn't the fastest method of transport. If I can just fly up there, I'd be well happy with that. Again, another mini game. I would love to see if there's a competitive version of this available. I don't think we got to see 2 player-controlled Pokemon flying around at the same time in this. But if we can have more of that, I'd be really happy. What do you think of the designs of this Elite Four?
I think they all look very interesting.
Yeah.
I think we've quite clearly got a Fire type, Steel type, Dragon type, Fairy maybe,
potentially. Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah,
I like them. I like them as a cast.
I do
like,
as well.
I like the fact that they're students. I like the fact they're very much part of the school.
Yeah. And
therefore can be more involved in the story we partake in here.
Yeah. And I think what I like about them as well is if they are their own version of the Elite Four, maybe outside of the league or lower down, beating them doesn't feel like it always does in the it felt especially like this in Scarlet and Violet of I beat the Elite Four champion who isn't the best of the best, and they even acknowledge that they've lost to Nimona several times. It's like, oh, okay, well, I feel,
and she wasn't even trying.
Yeah, and it's really infuriating. Whereas this feels like if I beat them, it doesn't feel like it takes away from them because they are only students, because they've still got a lot to learn and develop and stuff like that.
I think we do have a champion as well that gets hinted at.
Okay.
We see a red glove. We see the BB League vest, white vest, red logo on it. I think because we don't get to see a face shot, that's implied to be the champion.
Okay. Oh, I love that.
So it's interesting they haven't revealed them yet.
Yes. Again, I do like it when they reveal enough to give you a little bit of, oh, okay, yeah, I'm interested in this, but not enough to just outright spoil it. Again, in Kitakami, we see this mountain range that looks like a skull. I brought this up when I spoke with British when you weren't when you were off and couldn't make it in on one of the podcasts. Does it look like a skull mountain to you? Am I just seeing things?
No. It's straight up what it looks like. It's designed to be that, yeah.
Yeah. Do we think...
It kind of feels like it's supposed to be the head of a long distant Titan.
Yeah, that's what it feels like to me. Now that it's been put in 2 trailers, if it was 1 trailer, I'd be like, oh, okay, right, it just looks like a mountain. Do we think this actually plays into the secrets of Area Zero, or is it just it's a mountain that looks like a skull? Don't read too much into it.
I think it might just be a mountain that looks like a
skull.
Yeah, I think they've gone, hey, Kitakami, we've created this whole open world. What's one good-looking bit? What's the bit that actually we designed and didn't just procedurally generate?
The skull mountain. Yeah.
The skull land. Yeah, let's show them that bit.
Yep. I think if I had to guess what you thought was the most exciting part about this second one, was it this screenshot of old-timey photos relating to Area Zero?
Did we get old-timey photos related to Area Zero?
Yeah, we got a few of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that's kind of when
that bit then.
That's when it leads into explaining about, oh, no, you're going back to Paldean. There's something going on in Area Zero, and you need to figure out what is happening.
Yes, it does.
Yes.
I mean, I didn't assume that was part of this section of the DLC.
Okay.
That's what I thought was a transition to. But remember all that stuff that you're really annoyed that we didn't answer? We're going to get to it, guys. You just need to pay again.
Pay again? Yeah.
Pay again.
Yeah.
No, not a new game. Just pay again for the same game.
Yeah.
So we can finish it.
Finish it this time. I think that is everything for the DLC. However, I do have one little bit of news which didn't seem to be in the trailer, and I only found this by diving around on the website after. Something new to enjoy: mass outbreak events. So, I'll just read what it says. Mass outbreaks are a phenomenon in which many of the same species of Pokemon appear in one location. After the release of the Hidden Treasures of Area Zero Part 1, the Teal Mask, limited time mass outbreak events will begin. During these events, certain Pokemon will become more likely to appear in mass outbreaks. So they're bringing across what I think was one of the successes of Legends Arceus, was, this ability to mass hunt Pokemon to increase your odds of getting a shiny or good Pokemon, and the challenge it brought with that. I always thought these were quite challenging to do because you can't just drop in and just catch them all, because typically there's always 1 or 2 that were alphas or wanting to, kick your butt. I'm glad they're bringing this to Scarlet and Violet, but is this locked behind the paywall, or is it just going to be...
No, it's not. This is going to take place in Paldean. You need to update your game once the DLC releases. Do not need the DLC to take part in the mass outbreaks.
Perfect.
Not the Clefairy one. There will later be outbreaks that take place in Kitakami or on Blueberry Academy.
Okay.
Without the DLC, you can't go to those areas to take part in the mass outbreaks. One of the cool things it looks like they're adding is it's another way to farm titles or to farm marks.
Yes.
So we already know that mass outbreaks are one of the best places to shiny hunt things, but you're now going to be able to shiny hunt things with a specific mark as well.
Okay.
So as we talked about a couple of weeks ago about shinies not being that important anymore, here's another way that they've gone, yeah, it's another shiny Pokemon, but it's a cooler shiny Pokemon because it has a mark as well.
Yep, which makes it even rarer.
Yeah, so you're going to have the ability to farm these and chase them down.
The fact that they are adding this as a free update, like they did with Legends Arceus, again, another one of those things where, the Pokemon Company and Game Freak doesn't always get everything right, but every now and again they do just go, here's something free and cool, and the mass outbreaks in Legends Arceus are what kept me playing that game for even longer. So who knows, this might be, because I'm one of them that I do eventually want to go back and play Legends Arceus again. But I do get that itch every now and again to just load it up and go, I'm going to do some mass outbreaks and just see what I can find, potentially find a shiny. Maybe this will get me coming back to Scarlet and Violet. It'll definitely get me coming back more than raids will. Appreciate this more than the raids. So yeah, another positive bit of news for Scarlet and Violet. Have you got anything else about the DLC or the presents in general?
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Here's the big question. We have both gone on the record in saying we're not that excited about the DLC. Certainly not enough to pre-order it. Maybe gonna have to wait for reviews instead of buying it day one. Has this changed your mind?
It's made me more excited, but I'm still not going to pre-order it. I'm still going to wait for the reviews to come in. I think there is a lot of positive things in the DLC, and while I have my frustrations with Scarlet and Violet, I had frustrations with Sword and Shield, and the DLC went some way to improving my experience of Generation 8. I'm hoping that this is the same outcome of, okay, Scarlet and Violet wasn't great, but the DLC was really positive and a lot of fun. But I'm not going to pre-order it. I've been burnt by Scarlet and Violet and Pokemon before. But I am interested to find out more, and eventually I will play this. What about yourself?
So at the moment, the mini games I feel like are a cool addition, like the photography, the ousting, the trials that we'll take in the next game or the next section of the DLC. It always feels weird talking about these as if they're two different things, but they're one DLC. I just don't like how they do that.
Yeah, no.
The problem I have at the moment is the biggest draw for me is the story. And if the story is anything like the story that we got in Sword and Shield's DLC, it can be good, but it won't be very long.
Yeah.
And if I solve the story of the Teal Mask in 2 hours, I'm going to be miffed.
Yeah, agreed.
I'm going to be really, really upset because that's what's drawn me in. Indigo Disc, it's the Elite Four again, but without Gym Challenge first. So again, it's the same story, but condensed. You've got bits about Terapagos in there. The most frustrating thing for me is what I'm really looking forward to, and what I really wanted was answers about Area Zero. And I'm not going to get that for the longest time. And if that's anything like, again, we can only compare it to the Sword and Shield DLC, it'll be post-game to these two. So you have to play through both these parts in order to unlock that bit. I am more excited than I was. I am still apprehensive.
Yeah. I from a story perspective, because Sword and Shield, while I enjoyed those, they were just side adventures. They weren't a continuation. These feel like they could potentially... I think there'll be elements of both of these that are a continuation. I don't think it'll be, oh, you've ended up in this area, we're following this story. I think there'll be two separate stories, and there'll be an odd thing here or there that connects to the ending of the return to Paldea. Mm-hmm. I'd still be happy with that, but I would much rather it feel like a continuation of, I'm going to this region not because it's a side adventure, but because I've heard more about Area Zero and there's rumors about it tying in with the Teal Mask. Arvin's asked me to go along to investigate. I'm going to do it. Yeah. I think there'll be more standalone with little snippets, which is disappointing. But again, I always maintain that whenever I have in the past bought DLC, the best DLCs have always been a continuation of the main story rather than just a side adventure. And I think back to Mass Effect 2 and I think it was The Lair of the Shadow Broker, one of the best pieces of DLC ever played that engaged you from start to finish, because it was basically, here's the gap story between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3. You don't need to have played it for Mass Effect 3, but by playing it, you got a really good experience with returning characters, and it just hit all the right marks, and it felt like, oh, this is additional content for the game that I loved and completed 100%, and that's what I want. I want a continuation, so that when you do finally get to Area Zero and figure out the ending of that story, it feels like I've completed a full experience here, which is annoying that it isn't in the main game, but we'll see. We'll see why that is, and we'll go from there when we eventually do review it.
Here's the other thing as well, and I just had to double check this. The DLC is £50.
A lot of money, isn't it?
That's a whole nother game.
Yeah, I'm not paying that much.
Is this going to have the content of a whole nother game?
with how limited Scarlet and Violet was, it might do. And to be fair, let's be honest, that's why they've done the model that they've done, because if they release them as two separate pieces of DLC, you could buy one and not the other. You run the risk of people buying the first one and just thinking, nah, this wasn't that great, I'm not going to buy the second one. By grouping them together, you're kind of beholden people to play the second one, even if they didn't enjoy the first one. Connor is looking really concerned.
I might have lied.
Okay.
This might be Nintendo's website being.
Depends on where
awful.
you are, where you watch it.
I know. I think I'm on Nintendo's official website. Sorry, I think it's saying that Pokemon Scarlet is £50. The Hidden Treasures of Area Zero is another £30.
Okay.
If you buy them both together, it's £80.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's another £30, which again it's not
as bad.
Chunk of change.
Yeah.
No, because that's still the price of a DS game. That's still the price of a DS game.
Yeah,
that's the price that we used to pay for. That was full price Pokemon games. Like these games shouldn't be £50, and they're not if you buy them anywhere.
Agreed. I think no, it's all right. I think because of what happened with Scarlet and Violet, where I paid 50, 60 quid for it, the digital version, and then within a week it was reduced. I'm probably going to do the same with this, and I think that'll be a measure of success in terms of it's released, they're not reducing the price, the reviews are good. Okay, right, I'll go in. If the reviews aren't good or the price drops, then I'll know, well, okay, there's something amiss here. Maybe it hasn't hit the mark, and then I'll figure it out. I mean, I'll play it eventually anyway, because my daughter will want to pay for it, whether or not for birthday, for Christmas, she'll want to play it, because she's getting back into Scarlet and Violet now. So I'll play it at some point. But
we do have a release date. We do have a release date for the Teal Mask. It is coming next month, 13th of September.
So,
just as everybody goes back to school.
Just what you want, eh? Not during the summer holidays when children are off. You want it just as they go back. I'm looking forward to the reviews of this, because what I think Scarlet and Violet, I kind of feel like broke the cycle of reviews for Pokemon, because generally they're quite positive or optimistic, or when they talk about the negativity or the negative aspects of the games, they're always like a little bit of a comment at the end, and the reviews never accurately reflect some of the issues of the Pokemon games. Scarlet and Violet, at least from the reviews I was reading, were very critical of the game. I'm not sure why that was, but I know why the games were, but why more reviewers were more critical of Pokemon compared to when they've been in the past makes me optimistic that that we're not going to get, wiped with the Scarlet and Violet reviews of, oh, it's great, it's fantastic, go buy the DLC, you buy the DLC, it's like, oh, okay, this isn't that great. I'm kind of hoping we get the same with the very realistic reviews of the DLC, which will help to inform more people whether or not they should pay money for this.
I'm probably going to get it. We talk about it on a weekly basis. Of course I'm going to get it.
Yeah, I am as well. I don't know when, but we'll as it gets closer, I guess we'll figure that out. I'd feel a lot better if it was just 15 now and 15 later.
Yeah, I can see that, but
I know why they don't do that. Yeah. I can see that. Right, we're coming up.
I mean, because if they'd done that with Sword and Shield, no one would have bought the second DLC. Because from at least what I remember, nobody liked the Isle of Armor.
The Isle of Armor was the weaker one of the two.
Agreed.
And I do think that there is a reason why they bundle them together, and it's to stop a drop off of people. And
I will say the Isle of Armor only really had a story element, though. It had a new island to explore. It had the story element to it, and then that was kind of it.
Yeah, it was all about just getting that new Pokemon.
yeah, we didn't really get the, addition to the game, which was the Dynamax Adventures, until the second half of the DLC.
Yeah.
And you got the birds in that. You got the Reggies. Did you get the Reggies in that? Can't remember. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The point still stands. A lot more was added in the second half of that DLC. So I can see why people were a little bit less warm on the first half. This looks like they're splitting it a little bit better.
It does.
So maybe they're learning. Maybe. We always say they learn the wrong lessons, but we'll find out.
We'll find out indeed. Right, should we wrap it up there? Because we've been chattering on for nearly 2 hours.
2 hours.
If you've got comments and questions, let us know what you thought of Pokemon Presents, what you're excited for, what you aren't so excited for. The links are in the description below, as always. And that's the show for this week. If you've gotten this far, you're just top dollar, aren't you? Connor, where can we find you?
You can find my... It's been a long day.
That channel. Okay, interesting. Right.
You can find me on my YouTube channel at Captain Fidget or on Twitter at CapFidget.
I'm Ben. You can find me as Professor Hoeing Gaming on YouTube and Professor Hoeing on Twitter. I will never call it X.
I was glad you said it because I was going to say it too.
Never going to call it X. Before you go, we'd really appreciate if you could leave a review on the podcast platform of your choice. If you're watching on YouTube, then please leave a like. It really does help us to reach new people, which is what we're all about. We'll be back next Friday for another week of Pokemon podcast content.
See ya.